Good afternoon, friends. Mrs. Sharmila Bose, Principal Sushila Birla Girls School, Mrs. Seema Sapru, Principal Heritage School, Mrs. Saloni Priya, Director Ummeed Counseling and Consulting Services, Counseling Psychologist, Mr. Leslie D. Gama, Learning and Development Consultant, colleagues of Calcutta Chamber of Commerce, distinguished ladies, guests and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to this special session of Calcutta Chamber of Commerce, Online Learning, Impact and Opportunities, a stakeholder's point of view. I warmly welcome Mrs. Sharmila Bose, Principal Sushila Birla Girls School, Mrs. Seema Sapru, Principal The Heritage School, Mrs. Saloni Priya, Director Ummeed Counseling and Consulting Services, Counseling Psychologist, and Mr. Leslie D. Gama, Learning and Development Consultant, who have kindly accepted our invitation to grace today's session. Madam or Sir, we are greatly honored to have you with us today. Currently, in its 189th year, Calcutta Chamber of Commerce is not only the oldest chamber in India, but is in entire Asia. The chamber has been in forefront of serving industry and trade. The chamber, while encouraging excellence in different fields of human endeavor, also promotes debates on issues pertaining to civil society. The government, as a part of nationwide lockdown, has closed all education institutions, as a consequence of which learners ranging from school-going children to postgraduate students are affected. It is still uncertain when they can return to their schools or colleges. Education as a result has largely moved online. India too is witnessing an e-learning boom. Classes on Zoom and Google Meet are becoming the norm of students, parents and teachers. Yet this abrupt transition on online hardly compensates for the absence of classroom experience. Traditional classroom education offers the benefit of face-to-face interactions with the peers, which are typically moderated by a teacher. It provides children, especially those in their early development years, with a stable environment for a social interactions, helping them develop skills like boundary settings, empathy, and cooperation. It also allows plenty of room for spontaneity, unlike a virtual learning setup. Virtual learning, however, opens up many possibilities for students. Online learning has many advantages in itself, like digital learning has no physical boundaries. It has more learning engagement experience rather than the traditional learning. It is also cost effective and students can get to learn in the confines of their comfort zone. Globally, online education has met with some success. India's glaring digital divide and systematic inequity makes online education more challenging for a large number of students, particularly those from less affluent families. We still have a long way to go before online learning is seen as mainstream education, because students living in urban areas have the facilities to opt for the digital education. However, rural area students do not have the required infrastructure nor are financially strong to avail the resources required for digital education. Building of digital education infrastructure by the Government of India presently appears to be difficult due to lack of budget. Further, even if the digital infrastructure is built, training has to be given to the teachers to use the digital system to provide authentic and proper, uninterrupted and seamless education to the students. Moreover, online learning is likely to witness a high dropout rate due to the lack of atmosphere for studying. Students might tend to get distracted and might not feel a sense of community while taking online classes. Successful delivery of education is also in question, because learning at level of higher education and learning at a kindergarten public school level can be different. Digital education cannot be applied the same way at every level of education. It is not only just the question of impairing continuous and uninterrupted learning during the lockdown, but also the most important challenge for the instructor is to focus on the overall elements of the well-development course. Learning is a continuous and ever-evolving process. Systems should come to place that can ensure variety of methods to equip all learners, privileged, poor, middle class, and disabled. A child should always be priority, not an afterthought. We will listen from our honorable speakers, their experience and opinion on how does communication differs between learner and instructor in a traditional setting vis-a-vis an online setting. I now request our Senior Vice President, Mr. Rajiv Maheshwari, to introduce our honorable speakers. Once again, a hearty welcome to all of you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Rajiv, it's your turn.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my proud privilege to introduce to you all a very eminent panel of speakers and from the field of education who are going to interact and deliberate on the subject. First of all, I'll take the pleasure of introducing Mrs. Sharmila Bose, Principal Sushila Birla Girls School. She has 36 years of experience in the field of education, of which the last 24 years have been as the principal of Sushila Birla Girls School. She has been associated with the school since its inception in 1994. Ms. Bose was then the senior school coordinator and took over as principal in 1996. She is graduated from Presidency College, Kolkata, with English as her major subject and went on to do her MA and M Philosophy from Jadavpur University. A member of the Jadavpur University Society for American Studies, she has read many papers at this forum. Widely traveled, Ms. Bose is a voracious and keen debater. She considers the central purpose of education to be character building. She would like to see her students emerge into the world as confident, aware, and adults who can contribute towards nation building and aspire to call themselves citizens of this world. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. The next personality I would like to introduce is Ms. Seema Sapru. She holds a master's degree in chemistry and in education and a postgraduate diploma in school leadership management. She has completed online certificate course in multiple intelligence theory program from the Harvard University, USA, and Global Career Counselor certification from the University of California, Los Angeles. She has been teaching for close to 3 decades. She joined the Heritage School in 2007 and is on the advisory board of various other educational organizations. She is a master trainer for chemistry appointed by the CISCE Delhi, and she has been awarded Principal of the Year India by India Today and EduComp. Thank you for being here today, madam. I would now introduce Mrs. Saloni Priya, Founder Director of Umeed. She is a counseling psychologist working in the area of education management, human development and training, student empowerment, and comprehensive counseling for more than 22 years. And her interventions have reached out to several educational institutions, corporate and social organizations. She is the founder director of Umeed Counseling and Consulting Services, a multi-speciality positive psychology institution based in Calcutta, where she empowers, enables, and energizes populace with trainings, capacity building initiatives, undertakes therapies, workshops, and individualized sessions. She is also a trustee of the Umeed Foundation, which is an organization that works for underprivileged children in the field of mental health. Thank you, madam, for being with us today. Finally, I'd like to introduce Mr. Leslie Tigama, very old friend of mine too. He is a training and development specialist. He was formerly a senior teacher English, Computer Science and Maths, and Systems Administrator at St. Xavier's Collegiate School, Calcutta, during which time he studied the differences between the learning styles of high school students and adults and created his own model of participating learning. He focuses on helping young people develop themselves. He conducts interactive workshops, motivational talks, and guidance programs in various disciplines such as communication skills, teamwork, leadership, personality development, interpersonal behavior, and career choices. He has conducted sessions at multiple institutions, schools, and colleges across the country, and with the British Council, where he is currently an empaneled facilitator. Having been the Scoutmaster of St. Xavier's and District Scoutmaster of the 1st Calcutta District for over a decade, he is experienced at designing and conducting activity-based outdoor programs for motivating and developing young people. Academic and professional qualifications include an MA, a B.Ed, and a Diploma in Training and Development from ISTD, Delhi, and an accreditation as a FIRO B practitioner. He has been accredited by the Scottish Qualification Authority in conducting sessions for trainers on planning and delivering sessions to groups. He has also attended training in Myers-Briggs Type Indicator conducted by ISABS, Indian Society of Applied Behavioral Science, and competency mapping conducted by a National HRD network, among several other workshops and seminars. So thank you, Leslie, for being with us today. And I'm sure everybody, all of us are looking forward to a very engrossing and enlightening session from all four of you. I'll now hand over the mic to Leslie now to take over the proceedings. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rajiv. That entire thing was supposed to have been edited to 3 lines, but since you've gone through with it, I'm going to have big shoes to fill. But I think our speakers for today, Sharmila, sorry, I'm going to use the official names, Miss Bose. You kept on saying Mrs. Bose. It's Miss Bose. Miss Bose. Saloni, I can only call you Saloni. Is that okay? Okay. And Mrs. Sapru are going to actually deliberate on a number of things. I must thank Mr. Sureka, who gave us quite a bit of an environmental background to this whole business of online learning. But I'm going to actually ask the speakers to really focus on the word learning. Online is taken for granted because of COVID, but the learning part of it, and I'm going to differentiate between learning and teaching as 2 different activities. We can do them both, but let's focus on what we've learned. And for that reason, I'm going to dispense with the usual discussions about the digital divide and about abilities and training and all these things. We'll take it up as it comes. I'm going to conduct this with the permission of the panel as a question and answer session, and rather than having speeches from each person. So we're going to look at this, and we've discussed this, something like a school report card. You know, one side of the report card gives you your what you've achieved during that period of time, and the period of time is exactly 1 quarter. So we can take it as a quarterly report. So quarterly report, what we've achieved in various areas, and then we should look at the opportunities that this new learning, which we have been forced to accept, the opportunities that it now affords to the various groups. And for that, I'd like to start with the students. Let's look at the students, the parents, the teachers, the school, the larger environment. I'd like to start with the students, and I'd like to find out from maybe the first speaker should be the principal. Let's find out from the 2 principals what they think we have achieved in online learning as far as the students are concerned. And then we look at the emotional aspect and the social aspect from Saloni. So Sharmila, can we start with you, please?
Certainly. Very good afternoon to everybody. And thank you for having me on this panel. Mr. Maheshwari, Mr. Sureka, it's a pleasure to be here. We are 1 quarter into the academic year, no doubt. But in actual terms, it's less than that, because the first month of the first quarter was spent in sort of muddling around, trying to find our feet. I think we can safely say that April was a bit of a washout when it came to both teaching and learning. Teachers were not equipped overnight to move into the online mode. And students also thought that this was just a kind of holiday, which would make the most of it because it would soon get over and everybody would be back to school. So we are not really looking at a quarter's report. We are looking at 2 months worth of teaching learning. If you want my opinion on what we have learned, both teachers and students, we have discovered and learned whole different skill set from what we needed in our pre-pandemic days. Students, if you're going to look at only the students, then students have learned to be self-reliant, independent, and most importantly, take onus for their studies themselves. You see, if there are other teachers watching this, Seema, Saloni, you will all agree with me that for a very long time, the average Indian school student is dependent on others to study, as in the teachers, the parents. Her level of seriousness and self-responsibility is not as high as we would have liked it to be, even the senior students. This, I think, has changed drastically. Everybody's got a new perspective. And that's the biggest learning in this new world, that things are not the same, unlikely to be the same, and I am in charge of my own learning. I think from the students' perspective, this has been a very big learning.
Thank you for that. I would really like to ask a very specific question. Maybe Mrs. Sapru, you can come in on this. How have the students responded to online learning? That was a very, very astute observation. They become more self-reliant, more self-disciplined. I have question marks on that, but I think it depends on the age level that really makes a big difference. But Mrs. Sapru, what would you say about the response of the students to being forced to suddenly get into a whole new paradigm of learning? You need to unmute.
Okay, so Leslie, I begin by saying that, the classrooms have reached home now. The classrooms are at home. Okay, so there are 3 pairs of eyes looking at each teacher instead of 1 pair. That's what is happening everywhere. So somehow there's been a paradigm shift, as you said. So surviving the pandemic was more important than writing your board examinations. This is something which was conveyed by all examining boards, which I am very, very happy about, whether it was CBSE or ICSE or it was international education. The first thing students learned was you have to survive this time now. You have to take care of yourselves. Like Sharmila said, that of course self-reliant was one very, very important thing. But then this message being given by the affiliating bodies that examinations are not important. Your survival is more important right now. That's one thing. Another thing that I realized was now if we are looking at, this online learning, then there are 2 things that we looked at. One was synchronous learning and the other one was asynchronous learning. Now, I don't know if you people are familiar with this. So when there is real-time learning, that's synchronous learning. Say, for example, right now, both of us are talking, we're all talking to each other. This is real-time learning and this is synchronous learning. Another thing was asynchronous learning, where we had to just give them some work, put it on the school website, a link was given to the children, and the children did it at their own pace, at their own convenient time, when they had the device to work on. Because there are parents where both parents are working, there are 2 laptops or 3 laptops, and there are 2-3 children at home. So whether the parents should work or the children should work. And if the children, as long as there was complete lockdown, the parents were staying at home. So children were learning. But now when the parents are going out to work and the children are still at home, there is where the problem begins, because there is no laptop now. There's no device. They can't be working on the phone all the time. So here we talk about asynchronous learning, and there has been a lot of learning here where children are very, very happy. Of course, they're missing their high fives and they're missing their hugs and they're missing their, how it was earlier. And I thought this was really required. Leslie, I don't know if you were dealing with children on a day-to-day basis. Children's dependence on their friends was so much that they wouldn't look at their parents at all. So now, seriously, the parents would come and tell us that, ma'am, these people are only worried about their friends' birthdays, a new car, a new mobile phone, everything. So today, it's, how luxuries have reduced to absolutely zero, and children have started understanding the difference between wants and needs. This is a big learning for them. They're sitting at home. They are eating food cooked by their parents, which is the biggest thing. Otherwise, they had that phone and it was only KFC, or it was, Pizza Hut or McDonald's or wherever they would ask for food. And
so I think this social aspect is something that is being studied and dealt with by Saloni directly. Maybe you'd like to give us a little brief on what you think are the problems that the students have faced, or what are the good things that have happened out of the lockdown. We've heard a few things that have been mentioned by Seema.
Teachers become counselors also, sorry.
True.
So a little bit about that as well. But yes, I said asynchronous, synchronous learning. That's one thing. Secondly, of course, you have the device is there. We have to talk about that. Third is the assessment part. How do we assess these children? So if you want me to talk
I've got questions on that little later. Can we go and I'll do the teachers issues later. I'll do the parents also. We've covered a bit of it, but let me go through a few questions, then we can come back on areas which we haven't touched. I would like to go across to Saloni now, to just give us a little bit on the children, on anything you want to say about the children and their emotional state.
Good afternoon to all 100+ people who are all here as a community talking about this proactivity in pandemic. As very rightly shared, there is a very diverse spectrum which we are trying to cover when we say students, friends. So if I look at college going students and I look at children who are in pre-primary, if we cover all of them under students, Leslie, there is huge differences. Like for pre-primary students, I would say it has actually been a lot of fun and to a certain extent boredom, because pre-primary and junior school is a lot about social interaction, social learning, moving out from their home environment and learning the ways of meeting other people. It has totally been marginalized, and there is a huge, I think April was a little bit of dilemma. May was, okay, let's get used to digital learning, do some worksheets, do some activity. Let's take a video on Rabindra Jayanti and post to your school website. Now it is a lot of boredom. How do we engage the child? I have every other day families and parents talking about that. If you look at the extreme other end of children who were in colleges, children who were ready to pass out and looking at internships, because at Umeed we have a lot of students, right from mass communication to psychology to counseling, we do internship. It is, in spite of all this digital and online learning, it's a very, very distressing situation. People looking at, should I pass out or take an extension? Should I drop a year? What will I do with an internship, ma'am, only on web? I have no exposure. Middle, if we look at the school, I would say teachers and principals have done a fantastic job. Somehow we have engaged, we have tried to bring in some kind of a regime by 2-3 hours of online classes, giving them assessments. There also, I would like to talk, as Indian Chamber of Commerce is a platform for very wide horizons. I see a very huge shift, Leslie, in B city schools. The top schools of any city like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, children were quite well equipped with all kind of infrastructure for digital world. Earlier, Sharmila, they were using it more for entertainment, and schools were using it that when you are in school, no mobiles, no laptops, switch it off and be here, because we were focusing on one-to-one grooming and connect, that social skills. Now what has happened is some children are in the B city schools really geared up. Yesterday I was talking to a very small city school in UP, and you won't be able to see the delight, because a child in Gorakhpur, Faizabad, Balia kind of places now is seeing himself as a part of global community. So that I see as a very major opportunity. Sabko pata tha there is education and there is plethora of material available. But children now by somehow compulsion had access to it, and they have discovered a new world and they are enjoying. Many of our children, we love them when I say that, but they have still used it. Now teachers have a new concern because children are playing up. They log on into the class and they put their picture there and the child is not there. If the teacher prompts, the child is smart enough technologically to tell that there is a low connectivity, so I can't put the picture. So we have a very different level of challenge, and I totally agree with what Sharmila was saying, that teachers will have another set of challenge now, that we motivate children on self-learning and actually seeing the educator and the teacher available online as a facilitator and motivator.
So Saloni, can I come in over here? Sorry,
Absolutely.
Can I come in over here?
Absolutely.
I think all three of you have actually covered a little bit of everything. So I was going to take a report card subject-wise, like students, teachers, parents, principals, school. But I think we leave it open now. We're discussing things across the spectrum, which is great. Though I would like to actually focus a little bit on the teachers now, because I think the teachers have done a fantastic job. I have worked with about 5 schools and many individual teachers in the last 3 months. And I can tell you they are doing absolutely fantastic work. But I would like to hear from you. What were your challenges in the beginning? What is it now? And let's look also at how it's going to be in the future. I'm very glad that Seema brought in the asynchronous and synchronous difference, because I think that's a huge difference that needs to be understood by teachers. They were very happy standing on a platform and delivering classes. Now they have to shift the platform a bit. And just by way of comment, Saloni, in our days, we did the same thing. We had a chemistry book in front on the table and we had a comic behind it. And we passed chits around the classroom. So it's nothing new that they're doing, except that
Leslie, I would like to add here, at that time, you knew that any point of time teacher will take a round and you will be caught. On webinar, there is no such thing. So I think we should go more on that how our children now, even in class 8th or 7th, graduate to self-motivation of learning.
True.
Because we have always conditioned children with a little compulsive and forced learning.
Okay,
and
so
that I see as a very huge challenge.
My question is not only to develop, to dwell on the challenges, but also to take a little bit of a report card on how teachers have managed till date. So we can, so Seema, would you like to go over that?
Oh, yes. So what had happened was, Leslie, I think you've come to our school several times and you know the management. So from the very beginning, in fact, you were the one who was training all of us initially for the first few years. So I think the management has invested a lot of time and effort and resources in training the teachers. So we didn't have much of a problem. I must say, we started off with, Zoom and WhatsApp and everything else. We began with that. And then the moment we got to know that Zoom wasn't a very safe platform, we immediately moved to Microsoft Teams. From Microsoft Teams, we moved to Google Meet. From Google Meet, we've now graduated to Google Classroom. And I cannot tell you how happy we are on Google Classroom.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm a great champion of Google Classrooms.
So we're doing Google Classroom. Each teacher, each student, each parent is now trained in that. So all of us, we have our resources there. We work on it, throughout the day. We are making assessments there. We're doing everything on Google Classroom. And the journey has taken us about 1 month, and you'll be surprised that there are teachers, there are coordinators, the system department, there is IT department. Everybody one-on-one has been trained. And even now, if you see, there'll be some every day, 3 to 4 p.m. They say, okay, any teacher, anywhere, pre-primary to grade 12 who has a problem, please log in to such and such link every day, 3 to 4 p.m. and we are there. So now everybody is, becoming an expert. So, well, we have a Hindi teacher, we have an English teacher who probably knows more than the IT teachers today.
It's so, as Sharmila said, it's not only IT, it's actually a whole tool kit and a whole skill set which has undergone a change. Sharmila, would you like to talk about Google Classroom or any other thing that you faced?
I mean, first of all, we must all raise a toast to the teachers. You know, it's true that they have all come on board. They are comfortable with Google Classroom now. Fortunately, in our school, we didn't go through these layers of trying other software tools. We moved in with Google. So we've had some time with that, and teachers are comfortable. But this whole perspective and attitude towards online teaching and children doing online learning was something, and it continues to be something that needs to be addressed. You see, it is clearly a case of bashing a round peg into a square hole, or vice versa. Right? Teachers who have always visualized themselves as standing at the head of a class and teaching in a certain way are now doing it differently, and their children are in a totally different environment. Like Seema said, the home is the class. Thank God I'm at the end of my teaching life, because the home is the class. This new normal is not something I'm having to deal with. But over there, you see, I think teachers still have a long way to go. I am just being pragmatic, not to take away with the effort teachers are putting in. Teachers are putting in tons of effort in terms of the technology and all that. But now we must acknowledge, and we must provide teachers appropriate training, that opening a chapter and doing a Google Meet and going through the chapter, explaining the chapter as we go along, will no longer serve the purpose. We have to develop different skills in the student. You know, that the content is now really not so important, you know, because when we move to assessment, we'll realize that if you're doing online assessment, the content is there at the click of a button. You have no control over that, right? So teachers now have to be trained. The technical aspect has been sorted out to some extent, but there is a difference between physical classroom teaching and online teaching. There has to be a different in approach. There has to be a different set of skills that we target. And we still, I mean, you know, we are constantly pushing the bar, and we have to help our teachers get there. If I was clear.
Very clear, and I'm going to make only one objection. Teachers such as yourself, you can't ever be at the end of your whatever you said you were at the end of. It's not going to happen. Okay.
Well said, Leslie.
You're going to get back. You're going to get back. Okay. I think Saloni will be able to tell us a little bit about maybe some of the pressures and some of the difficulties that teachers are facing in this whole mindset change, tool set change, skill set change. Call it what you like. It's all three actually. So
Absolutely.
when they're being asked to get off the pedestal and become a one-to-one guide with 40 people in the same room and give assignments offline and give reading material which they hope the children will read. I think they're going to be very, very stressed. There's a lot of planning, new kind of planning and stress. So would you talk about that, please, Saloni?
Yes, Leslie. Taking it from where Sharmila has left it, we have all groomed, nurtured, trained, empowered educators. To start with, if I look at it across these 17 states, you can put teachers into the three main brackets. Initially, I would put in the ones who are the movers and the shakers. They were the teachers with more technology savvy, better infrastructure, the big international schools and all. They Immediately, with a little support from their school management and principals, they were the ones who took the lead and they showed a path. So all credit given to them that they adapted. Many of them also have international or education. So adaptation for them was better, and many of them led school teams where they empowered other teachers and they took them on. And many a times it is not only the computer teacher of the school. There are some other teachers also who have taken lead. So I would say this is the first time I saw very collaborative peer tutoring among educators, which was a very happy opportunity. All the teachers, I would say, actually went with this pandemic in the Maslow's hierarchy at the base level. We went to the basic survival and security level. And since it became a countrywide question mark, I think never before I have seen such team and partnership in teachers. So these were the movers and shakers who are leading. Second were where I would say they are survivors. So they could manage some part of it. They all started learning, and I have seen wonderful occasions where the son and the daughter at the home is helping mother. Mother is taking a web class and the son is sitting and prompting and telling mama isko kholo, ye window band karo. So a lot of that coaching also happened, and these teachers are surviving. They are building skill sets. Every other day they are getting from principal one more link for a webinar to join and learn. So NCRT webinars, CBSE webinars. So these are survivors. Maximum fall in this. And the third bracket is strugglers. This bracket actually has, I won't say mindset issues, but some of them are brilliant teachers. They are people who at the back of the hand know their subject. They were master teachers in their existing scenario. And it is very sad for me when such a teacher is depressed and she says, I think it's time for me to hang my boots. I've been motivating a lot of them that it's just a phase. Adapt to it. Don't give up. No, ma'am, I cannot teach if I don't see my children's faces. I don't get the kick if I don't get the response from my children, ma'am. I find this medium very dead. I don't think so I can be there. And I'm sure Sapru ma'am, Sharmila, who both have been brilliant educators, they would agree that a lot of digital technology, even if I can put a handshake, I can put a thumbs up, these are virtual mediums of communicating emotions. But teachers who were teaching because they had a fantastic student connect. I can see that as a trainer. I have an audience connect when I speak. How much effort it has taken for me to adapt to these webinars and give myself a kind of a new program in my mind that this is how you will respond. So a lot of these teachers, I would suggest to the school management and the principals, it is time for us to carry on. Let us not make them feel that they are not needed. They all have their own unique possibilities. Many of them are waiting for the old normal to come back. New normal, I would say, let's say it is a phase of our life where we have to adapt, and let's keep them together with us, because any principal would know we run a school and an institution with various skill sets. So only now focusing on technology skill set and losing out on others will again not be an opportunity, Leslie. It will again be a major drawback of this digital teaching. So I think a lot of balancing is required here.
Interestingly, Seema says in the chat that I'm sure this is a passing phase. We'll soon be back in our classes, interacting with our children. I love the hope, but we don't know when, because there's no sign of that happening in the near future.
Yeah, and even Leslie, I would say I stand for Umeed. For me, counseling and training is Umeed. And what it is maybe our classroom would be a little different. Maybe our interaction mode will be now some kind of a confluence of the old and the new. But I think what Seema would say, and since I know Seema and Sharmila so dearly, they both are very, very humanistic in their approach. So that human touch has to be revamped and brought back. I hope I'm speaking for both of you, Sharmila and Seema.
You are, Saloni, you are. But I have a basic question.
Yeah.
Saloni, what you said about the teachers, I agree 100%. The three categories and all that. And it's generally the more experienced teacher who is struggling with the digital world. The younger teachers are finding it easier, all that. But my basic question is, I also agree that we're waiting for the day when we will come back to the physical classroom. Do you think the current students, I mean, let's say those who are now 16, 17 years old, 15, 16, will they ever be the same? I think they will be marked for life. You know, like as adults, we say that we will forever remember 2020. It's like, you know, when something happened, where were you when a public figure was assassinated? You will remember that. We will all remember 2020 perfectly. Do you think the senior children, I'm not talking so much about the primary, even class 6, 7, but those who are conscious of one hand, the fear of the virus, you know, that families are living in fear. They are conscious of this total disruption in their education and they don't know when they'll get back. You know, we have students suffering enormous anxiety panics. You more than anybody else would know, Saloni, but I hear from our counselors that children are suffering from anxiety. Do you think they will ever be the same?
It will take a momentous amount of effort from our part to again build in social security. You know, what has happened is, looking at the global scenario, thanks to this 24/7 channel bombarding us, every child today looks at news more on his mobile and his iPad rather than sitting with us and watching it on a television. So they are so much more aware of a whole lot of conditions all around that I definitely see that the senior children have a lot more gloominess. They have a lot more isolation. And of course, they were very close to students and there was peer pressure, negative and positive. But this isolation which children between 15 to 21 are going through will have a very devastating effect. I'm already part of 2 studies, Sharmila. One, this is a professor in Dubai who is doing a study on Asian communities. And the reason is that Asian communities are very closely family connected. And he has given a data that they have very high level of regard for guru and a teacher. So with digital technology, can it ever give children that kind of a conviction and faith? So I think I'm answering your question, and I am actually one of the data interpreters along with him. It is something which I would love to share with all of you. We are looking for some things would really be scarred. And I am actually very concerned about this group of children between 17 to 21. You know, April was fun. May was holiday. July is fear. Ab kya
Very
hoga?
true.
What will happen to us now? Because photo भी खींच ली, cooking भी कर लिया, family के साथ बहुत Zoom meeting भी कर ली, friends के साथ. But now there is a lot of panic, anxiety being set in. And they are finding everybody helpless. You know, when a child was unhappy with parent, a teacher would support. I am unhappy with a teacher, parent helps me. Now, these children are seeing all adults around them who are so well off in terms of their social securities. If all of them become helpless, you know, it basically breaks something very deep inside. How do I keep faith? So I think I have understood your question correctly, Sharmila, because you also are hearing a lot of that from children. I have children who have come back from boarding school. They don't know whether they will go back.
True. So this uncertainty is there for everybody, including the community of work. I run a small IT company which is headquartered in Singapore, and IT used to have a 20 to 40% attrition rate after every appraisal. Our appraisal ended in February, and we've had a 0 attrition rate this year because people don't know where they're going to get the next job from. So I think it is definitely something that's uncertain. But let's move on to the parents. You know, the funny thing about parents is that I've had teachers telling me that they're now teaching at least 2 or 3 people on one device, because there's a child and there's a mother and there's a father and sometimes there's a grandparent around the place, and there's a lot of prompting going on, and you ask the question to a child and somebody else off screen is telling the child the answer, and the child is looking off the screen and then coming back to you and answering. So it's kind of quite frightening. So let's hear your view on this whole online learning, what effect has it had on parents? What have they learned? And what are they still to learn? And what are the opportunities for parents in such a situation?
Leslie, first, I would like to talk about, I'm a little optimistic about this time again.
Okay.
I would like to say still that, we're talking about these children, of course, what Sharmila and Saloni have said, I respect that. But I still feel there's this book called Outliers. Everybody's read this book called Outliers. So this is the time, and this is where crisis management children are learning. So this is, disaster management, crisis management has never been a part of the syllabus. And so whatever these children have never learned in their lives, they're learning now. And this generation had never ever seen a war. They'd never seen a pandemic. They'd never seen any kind of, disease, nothing. They would just ask for something and they would get it. So we were only training people to say no, say no to them. Parents, say no to your children. They shouldn't be getting everything. And look at this now. We are only saying no to these children. So when are we saying yes to them? So what I'm saying is there is a time in the life of all of us where, we have no control over, and people who are born at that time, people who are about to take a job at that time, the way they manage their time and the way they manage their life, they are the ones who are called outliers. And I would still say we have hope. I'm very optimistic about it.
Great. So that's not only the children, I think it's even the parents who are quite comfortable till such a point in time when they had to think of other ways of surviving. So coming back to the parents, Sharmila, would you have a view on this, the parents' effect on teachers to begin with?
Do you want me to start with the bullying?
Yes.
Yes. So children were subject to a certain level of bullying in school, I'm sure, a little bit from their seniors. Now teachers are subject to parental bullying. And whenever we talk, we have to differentiate between the children with regard to their age. You see, when the primary child sits down in front of her device, she no doubt needs the help of a mother, father, and things like 3-year-old and 4-year-old are doing their classes online, sitting on the mother's lap, and falling asleep, and the mother is very much a part of the class, and the teacher targets it that way. But this kind of parental interjections, interference, I will even use the word interference, in senior students is untenable. And I would really tell parents that connect them, give them access, and then butt out. Because the children have to learn to cope by themselves. You're not doing anybody any help by breathing down your daughter's neck, sitting next to her. One earphone is in the child's ear and the other one is in the mother's ear. It's absurd. It's absurd. You're crippling your child.
There are even more greater horror stories where we have parents writing to me because they know I'm working with schools. So they write to me and say, see, we've taken a screenshot of what the teacher said. It's absolutely wrong. And should I send a correction to the principal? So this kind of interference. So teachers used to happily make mistakes in class and pretend they didn't happen. Now they're out there in public and it's being videotaped and sent to other people as well.
Leslie, teachers make mistakes. We're all the teachers. Yes. We are teachers. And we'll admit teachers make mistakes. Nobody's infallible. All right. And when you're teaching senior classes, it's a routine thing for a sensible teacher to say, I don't quite know. I'll check and I'll get back to you. I can't do this sum. I'll check and I'll get back to you. It's routine. But to have parents pointing out pronunciation mistakes of the teachers, this is India. We have 150 different kinds of pronunciation and accents. Yes. It is boiled down to the ridiculous, the way parents are targeting teachers.
I agree. Seema, have you had similar situations?
We had initially, there were 1 or 2 parents, the helicoptering their children all the time. But we spoke to the parents and we told them that fine, you're very happy that the class has gone to your home, but just take it easy. And I also spoke to the teachers and I told them, I said, look, now is the time when the teachers have this opportunity to show what the school is all about. See, let the parents do what they wish to do. We will do what we do as Heritage School as teachers. We are teachers. We don't, come down to their level. So we are going to do whatever is right. So if parents are doing something wrong, we are not going to do it. Anyway, I think we didn't face much of this problem because we thought this was the time to showcase our school and showcase our teaching.
Fair
Because,
enough.
yeah.
So I have a very interesting question that's come up on my screen directly to me. I don't know if any other questions are coming up to the host.
No, Leslie, quite a few people are writing and we have 199 people there. I was also just seeing some questions which they are writing and responding to the discussion here.
Okay, so I'm finding it difficult to manage both sides. So if there's a question that you want to take up, please take it up. But I have a question here which says, could you please address the concerns on cybersecurity, because this is why parents try to monitor the online classes?
I can talk about.
Please do that.
Should I talk about it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll just tell you, we have, I've been looking at this and there are education experts who are talking about developing digital quotient. Like this is like emotional quotient, like intelligence quotient. Now there's something called digital quotient. And a digital quotient, which is a DQ Institute, has been set up in Singapore in collaboration with the World Economic Forum. Okay. So they've also developed a framework for digital literacy, skills and readiness. So what exactly happens here is digital competence or expertise is compared to your expected growth and potential of the digital market. So like IQ, like EQ, and what can you do to reduce frequency of, incidents such as,
Zoom bombing.
Cyber safety.
Yeah.
About cyber safety. So how do you reduce this frequency of these incidents? So this is DQ, this is digital quotient. And I think we need to now adapt to this as well.
Can I say something, Leslie?
Please do.
Cyber security is less of a concern now than it was pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, the child was looking into her phone. We didn't know what she was saying. Now, a lot of the time is monitored. The teacher is with the child online, and then the hovering parents, the helicopter parents are there the rest of the time. Cyber security is got nothing to do with the COVID situation. Cyber security,
I would agree,
is an ongoing serious problem, right? And I feel pre-pandemic, the safety of the children was more at risk than now. Would you agree with
Yeah, in fact, I would add to that, very rightly said, when we are talking even our own NCERT, if you look at the National Curriculum Framework, they have launched a lot of things for the teaching community, that when they are using their own home devices, what are the kind of security they need to keep in. And there is cells created in India where they are from the education department, and particularly in Gurgaon, they have a lot of cyber police stations created who are actually helping educational institutions now to ensure that whether it is their Google Classroom or others, how they are protected. So
fact,
I think it is need of our, Leslie, that every school, like when we started talking about POXO and we started talking about whole lot of these incidents, we got our school campuses secured and we had more cameras and we had training of our staff. Right now, I think I agree that now children are at least using the digital platforms for more educational and productive purposes. There is more monitoring and people involved in facilitating. In fact, to add, when we were talking about parents, I have seen a trend that a whole lot of parents, they might have started looking at online class because they are free. They are also sitting at the home and the child is using the mother's laptop, who is a banker. But I have seen a lot of such parents also developed respect for teaching community, that it is tough. Now, when my child is staying at home for the last 3.5 months, I've realized the tremendous amount of effort a teacher makes managing 40 and 30 and 60 of them in a classroom. So there are both sides to it. A lot of parents have developed respect for the teaching community and the work they are doing. There is a lot of parents who have also volunteered. I'm talking about some schools in Hyderabad where parents have volunteered that since now I am also working from home and I have time, I can teach accounts, I can do this. So principals have collaborated, and that is bringing actually a true community of educators, parents and teachers की जो एक boundary wall थी, I am seeing that getting diffused.
True.
And the third thing which is coming in, that a lot of people who were sitting at home, I'm talking about our senior citizens, full of wisdom, many of them, they are, Sharmila, contributing to a lot of junior classes by doing a lot of sessions with children. In fact, I have helped an NGO in Jharkhand who's doing this. They have taken senior citizens. So it is a NGO combining with the Tata group of schools who have a, it is such a beautiful thing to do, because most of these elderly people, they couldn't travel, they couldn't reach to people. Thanks to this web technology, they are at their homes and now they are contributing. So there are many opportunities to this digital learning of parent participation, Leslie, become much more meaningful and fruitful.
That's very good. I just love that idea of getting people at home to help with the rounding off of education. It really brings me to an interesting question which has actually came in before the program from, I believe, the principal of Calcutta Boys School. He says, are the conventional teachers being trained for online teaching? Question mark. And the second question is there any set standard for online teaching for teachers? So both questions are open to the house. So, I mean, the house means the panelists. So if you want to take that question.
When it comes to training of teachers, our first target was the online training of teachers, which is what we have all undertaken, full steam ahead. But like if you recall, I mentioned this in my very first opening remarks, that we now need to do another kind of training for the teachers. Online teaching is not just classroom teaching done in front of a computer screen.
Absolutely.
Then you need to develop different skills within the student. Therefore, your teaching tactic, your teaching practices, the methodology has to change. And that's, I feel, the next step in our training of teachers. The technical training was first. Most of us, I think, have done that, and our teachers are rolling. I think it's the more difficult, the change in shift, attitude, perspective, methodologies, pedagogy, the whole thing. That is the next training of teachers. And that's my view.
Seema, you want to add something to that?
Yes, certainly. So what I wanted to say is, see, there's a realization that there has to be trust and there has to be a deep sense of understanding of shared responsibility between the school and the family. There has to be blended learning even after a hybrid model of learning, even after the schools reopen, because I don't think we will start off with the same timing. It will not happen the same way. We will probably, the timings will be different, will be shorter. Maybe we'll start working on alternate days. So there will be some children who will be learning face to face, and there will be some children who will be, there'll be live streaming of that happening. So teachers will have to be trained in every little thing. So you see, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the attitude of the teachers is to learn, and they're willing learners, and they want to be a part of the team, and they want to collaborate, there is no problem. Teachers will be happy, whether they are old teachers or new teachers, they'll be very happy to learn and become a part of this new normal. So I don't think that would be a problem.
So I made a list of, sorry, Salween, I'll come to you in a minute. I made a list of all the opportunities that I would be very happy to hear about. And I'm going with my pencil and ticking off one by one. Number one, model of teaching and learning has to change. So somebody said that. Blended learning, somebody said that. Project work, I think, was mentioned in some case, yeah. Trust and faith in the students and the teachers has to be built. Self-discipline, you mentioned that as well. The two or three things I think I didn't hear in these terms, like the constructivist model of teaching has to come in, is what I had put in there, because I said children are going to construct their own knowledge now. They're already doing it. And they're checking up everything the teacher's saying because they got Google on the side, which they don't have in their classrooms.
I
And
will more research opportunity.
yes, and the collaborative model, where you can give a whole lot of work to a group of children and they can work at it together. So that's another area that probably will need to come in. I also wanted to have your view, maybe Saloni can come in here as well, is with differentiated teaching. Can it happen now because of the virtual classroom? Can we talk about differentiated teaching for a minute? Rajiv, just raise your hand if you think we're running out of time. I can see you.
Leslie, I think it is already happening more than ever. A lot of differentiated teaching model is what most of the schools are operating from. In fact, I would add there, when you were making your list, that like the schools have partnered with parents. I've always stood for that on all possible platforms. I think a little bit, if you can see, there were 2 questions on the chat box also, where parents have said, what about some of us as parents who have our own digital challenges? Now, when the school and the children are demanding, so if a little bit of this could be done, maybe like a set of guidelines given to parents that when we are doing digital learning, this is the kind of help and support you could do, or maybe a little bit of some online classes done for a little parent hand holding, I think will also be strengthening this effectiveness of teaching learning.
You'll be happy to know I know of 3 schools where this is actually actively being done. The parents are getting not only handouts, they're also getting a little bit of online coaching as to how they're supposed to.
So we must share notes, because I can tell you 7 more. These are group schools. One of them has 23 schools across. So they are every Friday posting a small PPT on the WhatsApp groups that for the next week, these are your guidelines. This will be done in the digital classes. So when you are supervising self-study of your child or providing help, this is what as a parent you could do. And we are seeing very good dividends of that. Coming back to training of teachers, I think what Seema said and what Sharmila ma'am is saying, I totally agree with them. Only thing is that this sense of insecurity, a certain sense of that in the new kind of schooling where classrooms would change and all, maybe we will not be required. Upskilling our teachers in terms of being multi-dimensional and seeing themselves more than ever before as mentors and facilitators will be important. And another area which has come up for teachers is a lot of our teachers can now actually get into content development because of their immense subject knowledge. There are people who are digital experts. Like when I take up a seminar where I'm speaking to postgraduate students, and suppose they have a technology on which they wanted to telecast it to Singapore, I will not build up in that short time my technical skills. So I shared my knowledge domain, and a technical expert guided that how it can be streamed to 1,000 students across 5 campuses. I'm talking Amity. Right. Okay. So I think a lot more of this is what I see, which if principals could do a little hand holding with their teachers, we will have, we will not be losing out on this rich resource, which, you know, has come from years of their experience with real classroom. So I wish there was some way where we could maximize on this experience and repertoire, Leslie, that we don't lose on that. How do we translate it or transform it and let the children get the best?
Yeah. So in fact, differentiated teaching is being done, I'm sure of it. And because of the asynchronous model, children can learn at their own pace quite a bit. They can actually put things off and do it a little later and yet achieve the same final result. So my question is going to be, and this is a very touchy one, how are we going to assess? One of the biggest problems I think teachers are asking is, how do we assess? And Seema has a hand up, so I'm letting Seema go with it. Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to tell you, for assessments, we've made a structure already, and we're very happy to tell you that we had some online admission tests and online interviews, and so first thing is, as I said, we have parents as our partners. So we've asked some of our parents to proctor their child's examination. So this is how we partner with them. That's one thing. Secondly, there is, to disable functions such as copy, cut, paste, there's something called restricted control keys and function. That has to be done. That's one thing. Secondly, to prevent candidate from switching between screens, that's called restricted browsing tolerance. That has to be done. Then the third thing is minimization or any interaction with other screen. That is, the test taking window is a full screen window, and it doesn't allow for minimization. So your monitor remains just there. It is a secure workstation. So you can't,
go to another window.
Cut paste. You have to disable control keys, and you have a secure workstation and you can't minimize anything. So these are the three ways that you do it. And your examination is absolutely perfect. And of course, we have our 8 children, 2 teachers, invigilating them all the time, because we connect them and we give them a password and a link just 5 minutes before the examination. They finish the examination, they scan they write the examination, they don't type it. They write the examination with their laptop screen facing that. They write it, scan it, and send it to us after 20 minutes, half an hour.
I think something similar is being done by Sharmila.
What Seema talked about, these are the technical aspects of making sure that the children are in a controlled environment during the course of
actually telling the parents to be proctoring the examination, being there together with them,
and disabling certain keys, enabling other functions, and so on. But my thinking is that every time we talk about assessment, even now it has been implicit by what Seema has said, we talk about cheating. That children must be prevented from getting other help, no other device allowed, disable this key, that key, and no other window, and so on. I think if we could use this opportunity, this new environment, to drive home the fact that you must be ethical in your examination practices. You see, we are making a new beginning on so many fronts. And for a long time, this thing about unfair means, children seeking unfair means, has been an issue in school tests and examinations. Why can't we see a new beginning? Why can't we see faith and trust, emerging out of this dark situation? I mean, I'd like to be positive on this one.
Very, very well said. I think that would be an absolute clarion call for a major change of positivity and opportunity. And that is why, we were experimenting with open book exams. We were experimenting with these. I think with digital technology, we can actually have many of these new methods. Like some of the experiments are like small groups of children making presentations and facing an absolutely project-based viva on the subject. Another method which some schools are equipping them is that a teacher has sent in a questionnaire. She has put in some topics and she has asked the child to design some of the questions related to that, which is more from Bloom's taxonomy, that are we helping children to be thinking, developing, creative, and the entire assessment is skill-based rather than memory-based. So a lot more of such experimentations can happen, but of course, assessment is more a principal's call. I can only say that assessments online right now are still a very, very gray area. People are very unclear and unsure about it. Children, parents, as well as teachers.
This
is a
one
very,
area
very...
sorry to interrupt, but this is one area where teachers need training. How to set a question paper which is independent of the Google second window and which is independent of the cell phone sitting on your lap, right? And you can ask for help. You know, how to set that kind of question paper.
Very true.
Okay, so there are a few other comments which are very nice. We're going to share the chat comments with the panelists. Some people want to know what will happen if the network doesn't support, how to cope. I think these are questions that will sort themselves out over a period of time. One answer is that you don't need to be online all the time. It's when you are online that you can get the work done, and that is what something like Google Classroom actually lends itself to. Offline learning. And, teachers give links to the students and the students go on to those links as and when they can. And they can get back to those links even when the teacher is not around. And that actually helps the students to learn more, to revise more. So these are areas that we can get into and maybe in another seminar, but I wouldn't worry too much about, I think there are some questions about what about those who can't afford and all that. Well, it's always been there. I think Sharmila has a point on this. We discussed it a couple of days back.
My point is this digital divide that we talk about. In education, there has always been a divide, right? It has been sharpened, no doubt, by the current situation. But in education, we've always had a divide. Private schools and the non-private schools. Urban schools with all plethora of facilities, like Seema said, too much of everything, and deprived schools. We've always had a divide. And this digital divide is one more divide. But, subsequent to our conversation, Leslie, I was thinking that, there are ways of bridging this divide. I was reading up what the Kerala government is doing in providing devices.
TV, yeah.
Going TV, they've roped in NGOs and philanthropists and everybody. So there are ways of handling this divide. But we have always been divided. Like so many areas of our country, so many areas in our country, in education too, we have always had a divide.
So I'm going to take one more comment out here, which says, I love what Sharmila says, we must trust. Okay, so that's, I think it's from Aban, probably confection, I'm not sure. It's not showing on my screen. She also agrees, and I said that right at the beginning, trust and faith is something that we're going to have to develop whether we like it or not. The whole ethical scenario has to change, and it will take time. I think it will take time, but I think it will come. Eventually it will come. So, okay, we got another technical, somebody has lots of technical problems. What happens if it's raining and network drops, then what to do? My answer to that, I don't know if anyone wants to answer that, but my answer to that is when it's raining and the school is off, what do you do? So that also can happen. But okay, that's being facetious. I think the network drops are a fact and they have to be dealt with. We figure out a way out of that. Okay. So these are the questions I came with. I don't know if Amit Sharma has any other questions which have popped into his box because he's the host, or if Rajiv has any questions. But we've kind of covered the report card as far as the students, the teachers, the parents, and the school. We've not done too much on the school, but well, principals also. And we've also looked very positively at some of the opportunities. I'm so glad to see that the opportunities are what we're all thinking of. We're not thinking of, okay, we've figured out how to make something work and we're stuck there. Now that we figured out how to make it work, what's the next? I think teacher training and parent training has come up as a very positive area. Saloni, you've mentioned a lot about the emotional impact. I think that's getting better, but there is still emotional impact. Children who are stuck at home with only their parents, and especially single child
Leslie,
families.
you reduce it when you use the word stuck. You tell they are happy to be at home where they are learning and realizing a lot more about their families.
I'm glad you corrected me. They're safe at home.
Yes.
But they don't have their friends whom they can go and play football with. And that is a huge advantage of a school.
Absolutely. There is a huge miss. No doubt about it. No denying it.
Yeah, and thanks for correcting me. Okay, so from my part of it, Rajiv, I think we've kind of explored the topic that I wanted to, and I'm happy if anyone wants to make some closing remarks, please go ahead. Seema, Sharmila, Saloni, all three S's.
Yeah, actually the chat box is open for questions, but I don't see any questions. So shall we wait for half a minute? If something comes up, well, otherwise we'll go for the formal vote of thanks.
I've got a private message here. In many schools, the rule has been made that during exams, if the video is off, the paper stands cancelled. This is creating a lot of anxiety. So what is your take on it?
This is absolutely mandatory for everybody to keep the video on. How can you not have the child? You can't have an absent child or a child hiding somewhere and writing the examination. So if the video is not on, see, there are things that you can do. You have your laptop, you have your dongle with you. You can also keep your hotspot ready, because at that point of time, switch off everything else. Your phone shouldn't be connected to that. So you have to prioritize what is most important at that time, and we're making sure that we don't give you, I mean, most of the schools are making sure that the examination is not for more than half an hour, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, so that children don't have this problem. And if there is a problem, keep that, as a standby. I think that's important, because you have to understand, I mean, there are certain things which are very, very important. So that's it. Only thing is, if there are 3 children at home, all 3 taking examinations at the same time, then you had it.
Yes. Okay, there are a few other questions which are a little technical. One is, what about fake IDs? Some students enter with fake IDs. This is not possible in at least 2 of the areas I am familiar with, Google Suite and Microsoft Teams. You can't enter with a fake ID. Okay. Just to interrupt. I think that happens on Zoom. Then somebody's asked how to manage the issues of attendance in online classes. Again, I think in both the big guys, I call them the big guys, Google and Microsoft, you have an attendance module which you can click and it takes the attendance. Okay. Yeah. Then somebody's written, how is this possible? Okay. What happens if mom, dad, sister, brother are also online? Not quite easy as it sounds. We already discussed that earlier. Yes, it is difficult, but I think the family has to adjust according to what is required. What about network issues? So again, we're coming on to network issues. I'm not going to take that. It's crucial students and parents practice academic honesty. We've said that a couple of times. We've done the examinations, but found that the parents and students are not mature to understand this. Any suggestions? I don't
Something I want to add, Leslie.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, when they're talking about, these devices and things like that, I must tell you that there are teachers, which Sharmila and I both have, I mean, we both experienced this. There are teachers, who they're getting whatever small salary and they're looking after their entire family. But after this pandemic, they didn't have a laptop. They've bought laptops. I can tell you there are a whole lot of them who've invested in a laptop. They're paying EMIs per month. And even if they're getting 50% salary or whatever, I mean, there are schools that are giving them, they're not giving them, full salary. So, Sharmila, isn't that, I mean, kudos to our teachers.
Absolutely.
Teachers have really stretched themselves.
Really?
Like you said, many of them have overnight bought a device.
They bought a device, they bought a dongle, they bought everything.
Most teachers have 2 connections, internet connections. One is your whatever you had from pre-pandemic, and everybody's gone in for a new dongle. Yes.
And with regard to equipment, I know one school that has advanced the money to the teachers and is picking up the tab on the laptops. They're saying you pay the school back whenever you can, so it's not even costing them that EMI percentage.
Yes.
I know that's
very admirable. Very good.
And teachers have come to realize that having a decent device at home has now become part of the survival strategy of being a teacher. So I guess it's working out. So somebody's asked the same thing about fake IDs. So I think we'll have to take that question offline. I'll be happy to take offline questions. Okay, there are no other questions. So Rajiv, do you want to wrap this up? Oh, you have a question. I can't hear you, Rajiv. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think we've reached the end of our interaction, and with no questions in sight, I think we'll request my colleague Shailja Mehta, who's also a vice president, to give the formal vote of thanks. Shailja, over to you. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. One sec. Amit, would you just unmute her, please?
I'd just like to thank Sharmila, Saloni, and Seema. I'm using first names, I know, but it just sounds more comfortable. So thank you so much. You've been really interactive, and I think we've explored the topic better than I had hoped, actually.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you very much. Okay, Shelly.
Okay, good afternoon, friends. Ms. Bose, Ms. Sapru, Ms. Saloni Priya, Mr. Leslie Dagama, and all my friends and colleagues who have joined us this afternoon. I joined in a little bit late because of some technical issues, and I hope I haven't missed out on any entertaining or important discussions. But what I heard, it has been such an enlightening and such an important issue that has been addressed today. Thank you so much, all of you. I am personally grateful for one topic that came up. I know we discussed the parents, their involvement, the children, their psyches, how it's being affected, the teachers, the hard work that they are putting into it, the schools that have managed to hold on to the education of the children in such trying times. But I personally felt grateful to Ms. Sharmila Bose for talking about the digital divide, and it exists. And as a Rotarian, I was very distressed when all this happened, because we worked really, really hard to see that the percentage of girl child dropout decreases. We never even anticipated this kind of a situation, and I'm pretty sure that that's the first casualty in the rural and the semi-urban areas. Having said that, it has been a very, very enlightening and a very informative discussion. Thank you so much, all of you. And I hereby propose a very hearty vote of thanks and would like all participants to join us in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before that, thank you very much. I would also like to thank Rajiv, my colleague, senior vice president, who has
Sorry, I think I've unmuted all by accident.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you.
It has been good evening, everybody. A very, very interesting and interesting talk. We must thank all the speakers and the coordinator and the moderator. Congratulations for such an interesting talk. Thank you very much, sir. I'm S.P. Saria, past president.
Thank you.
Thank you all around, Mr. Maheshwari.
So we look forward to another opportunity in the education sector for some other subject in the future.
All right. So I'm leaving now. Bye, Leslie.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Rajiv ji.
Thank you so much,
It was
ma'am.
such a pleasure. Wonderful. Bye-bye, Sharmila. Bye, Seema.
Bye.
Thank you.
It was lovely being here, and most wonderful was the 200 plus audience. Great.
Yeah, that's true.
Education is life, and life carries on. So we will keep connecting and meeting each other. Thank you to all the members of Indian Chamber of Commerce for having us.
Calcutta.
Thank you so much.
It is Calcutta Chamber of Commerce.
Calcutta Chamber of Commerce.
Calcutta Chamber of Commerce. I stand corrected. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, it was a very nice interacting session. I
Thank
congratulate
you,
to all the
Rajendra sir.
participants, especially to Mr. Gaga for conducting it so nicely.
Thank you, sir.
Ima,
Pleasure.
Ms. Bose, and Saloni Priya, you have done very well.
Thank you, Rajendra sir.
Thank you.
Leslie.
Thank you,
See you.
everybody.
Welcome, Raj.